Folks, just a program note, in the next couple weeks and in the next month and a half, we're going to have some huge guests on. I'm just going to leave it at that. And no, those huge guests are not the big astronauts we got coming on the next 2 weeks. But I'm just going to leave it at that. Little Easter egg, as they say, like on a DVD, a little hidden goodie. That is coming up later. Going back to the author of The Family, Jeff Sharlet. And this is just a bottomless pit of weirdness, but he's a great journalist, writes for Harper's and for the New York Times as well. I saw an article in the New York Times. He writes for Harper's and Rolling Stone. The reason I was bringing up Harper's, it was actually Harper's had the interview with Nixon when he was talking about the Bohemian Grove. And so that was where my quote from that came. Okay, you got the floor. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. Start at the beginning. You get inside there. You've written articles about how it's not really Christian, though, from not wanting to stop abortion and saying we like Machiavelli. I'm going from memory here, but a lot of weird stuff. What is it really? Some type of strange intelligence front? Because just in a snapshot, that's what it looks like to me.
It goes back, it begins in 1935. The organizer, Abraham Berady, believes that he has a vision that God comes to him and speaks to him, tells him that Christianity has been getting it wrong for 2,000 years, and any focus on the poor, the weak, the suffering, the down and out, that's not right. What God wants him to be is a missionary to and for the powerful, the up and out, he calls them. He begins organizing guys like Henry Ford and a group of congressmen. He gets some businessmen together. He starts out in the state of Washington. They manage to elect a governor, and on that basis, they start going overseas. They're involved with the whitewashing of Nazis after World War II, and then they start...
Excuse me, something about Nazis?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. It's always suspicious when someone talks about that stuff, but it's...
No, it's not. I mean, you mentioned Henry Ford.
Henry Ford, exactly. Well, they were very sympathetic. See, they began with this idea, not only that God wanted them to serve the powerful instead of the powerless, but they began with this idea. They were looking around the world in the 1930s, and they thought democracy was done. They said democracy cannot compete with fascism and communism. Well, communism was definitely not for them. These were very wealthy businessmen. And fascism looks pretty good, but they didn't like Hitler. They didn't like Mussolini. So they said, what we're going to do is a totalitarianism for Christ, which is sort of missing the point of the Christian message, but that was their approach. And they started recruiting a lot of American fascist sympathizers, and over the years when they go and make alliances with foreign dictators, they look for guys who exemplify that model. Doug Coe, the leader of the group, has said, he likes to say to congressmen, he says, who were the three men in the 20th century who best understood the message of the New Testament? And maybe you say something like Dietrich Bonhoeffer or Martin Luther King, or maybe you're more conservative and you say Billy Graham. He says, no. He says Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. And he says what they understood is that the New Testament, and this is their reading, is not about love or mercy or injustice or forgiveness. It's about power. And those guys understood power. So you want to model yourself on power. Another sermon you can find actually online on the website of the Navigators, a Christian right group. They have an audio sermon of Coe saying, because you know how Jesus said, you got to put me before your mother, father, brother, sister. He says, well, Hitler, Mao, that's what they taught the kids. This is a direct quote. He says, Mao even had the kids killing their parents, but it wasn't murder, see, because it was for building the new nation, the new kingdom.
My God, this guy. So, but hold on. I mean, this is incredible. And you were there. This is published. It's in your book. And I'm familiar with the fake right-wing Chicago School of Business, all of this. Milton Friedman, the same social...
the Straussians there's a real overlap with those guys, because those guys are all going on this premise of what Plato called the noble lies. The idea that regular folks can't handle the truth and some elites need to make decisions.
And that's why they like Machiavelli. Man, but see, it's all interconnected. I didn't know they were into Straussian. I just knew it fit with the Chicago school. Man, these people are just monstrous. But Obama has got a bunch of the Straussians pulling his strings.
Yeah, he's got some family guys in there, too. General Jim Jones, who's, one of his close advisors, the guy who's been on...
oh, my God. General James L. Jones, the head of the National Security Council, the real government?
Indeed, and I'll tell you one that's a little bit crazier. She's not a member of the group. She's what they call a friend of the group, and they're very careful about those distinctions. She says of Doug Coe, this man I was just quoting, this language by Hitler and Mao, she says he's a genuinely loving spiritual mentor and guide. She says she turned to him when she first came to Washington in 1994. Who am I talking about? But none other than Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And
oh, my gosh. Hold on, let me stop you. So it's bipartisan. Hold on. We got a break. This is blowing me away. We're going to do the full hour with you. 2 long segments coming up. That was a short one. See, the problem is, I haven't read the book yet. I've read a lot of your news articles. A lot of what's in there I've confirmed separate places over the years, so I know you're telling the truth. Plus, they admit you went there and lived there. So, but it's just, all these dots just connected. And people kept asking me about CMP. I didn't really know much about it. Now I know. The good old folks at New Silver Solution. And the website is supernaturalsilver.com. Supernaturalsilver.com. This is something that kills bacteria, viruses, you name it, well documented. They've got it down to a super small, nano-sized particle. Supernaturalsilver.com. Check them out at Infowars.com. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with listeners. A lot of times when I have a guest on, I'm focused. I've got notes. I got a bunch of facts. A few days ago, I saw Mr. Sharlet on Rachel Maddow. I was back in the break room drinking coffee and eating dinner up here working on a film. And I said, I've read his stuff before. Yeah, I know about Ashcroft and all those guys in this group. And I've been doing some more research on that. I want to get him on. But Maddow was making it a left-right thing and about how these guys are all cheating on their wives and how they're hypocrites. And I was like, I've read his articles and other articles about this group, how it's all Machiavellian and the end justifies the means and dictators and strong men. And I go, man, that fits into Chicago school and the neocons and, you know, this whole sick philosophy that the globalists just kind of use to get well-meaning men to do evil things. The higher-up psychopaths are using it just as a control system. And it's one of many groups. But certainly then as he made the connections to even more powerful organizations, and I guess there is something to this. You know, I don't get too obsessed on this group or that group. I've found if it's CFR, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg, Bohemian Grove, then it's every other group. The leadership of these groups are the leadership of all the other groups. And so it's kind of an interlocking directorate. But I'll be honest, now that I heard him roll with info I'd never heard him say on the shows, because they always compartmentalize it, it made all these connections. Because you've got other secretive right-wing groups, like the CMP, and I've had guests on over the years that mentioned that, and I thought of it more as a right-wing think tank that were globalist, but it also had some anti-globalist in it, like the Hunt brothers, so that confused me. And I don't think anything's the top of the pyramid. I think at the top of the pyramid, it's all these groups nexusing in. But then I didn't know there was a Opus Dei connection. I just threw it out there. He said yes and listed the names. And then a Pentagon connection with the head of national security, which really is the real shadow government, James L. Jones, and the Chicago School, and the neocons. And so you just blew me away. You just got my attention. And so I want to get more into the Opus Dei connection, more of the national security connection. Take your time on Hillary as a friend. Take your time on their missions, their operations, what they're doing worldwide. I know you cover it all in the book. I've read part of it just out and already a bestseller, The Family, Jeff Sharlet. But Jeff, go ahead. Run through it all. Give us the key information here. And bottom line, just from knowing what I know about separate groups that nexus in, this does sound pretty sinister.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying this, Alex, and I think you're exactly right. We never want to make the mistake of saying there's one group that controls it all. There's multiple power bases, and the point I'm trying to make here is that the family is one of the most influential power bases, and yet it hasn't been measured. A sociologist, conservative sociologist, actually, as it happens, down there in Texas at Rice University, did a survey of 360 politicians in Washington, asking them to name the religious group that is most influential. 1 in 3 named the family. That's more than any other group got. That was more votes than James Dobson's Focus on the Family, more than any other group. They named the family, and what's crazy about this is the family denies that they exist. if you call up the leader of the group, as I had NBC News do last year when I did a segment with them, they said, oh, no, there's nothing to see here. We don't exist. There is no group. It's just a group of friends. Fortunately, I'd already shared with NBC News their tax records, and there's 600 boxes of documents that show, I think, something that does indeed go beyond left and right. This is a group about power. Again, I'll just repeat that saying that they have. We work with power where we can, build new power where we can't. What that means is, unlike some right-wing groups that are just sort of extensions of the Republican Party, the family wants connections to Democrats as well. One is Senator Mark Pryor of Arkansas, pro-war Democrat from Arkansas. And Senator
so
Pryor,
they're apolitical. They want power.
Oh, no, they're not apolitical. They're not apolitical. I wouldn't say that. They want power. They have some specific ends. One is they believe in sort of a free market fundamentalism. They believe that.
Well, by apolitical, I meant they don't care about labels.
They don't care about labels. They care about power, right? They care about power and their agenda. And the agenda is two things. It's free market fundamentalism and it's American empire.